everybody. Welcome to the Comic Game Movie Show. My name is Deshaun, and today I'm here to review Moon Knight Episode 4. Now, this is the episode that we have heard a lot about because, as a lot of you may know, some of you may not, when the Moon Knight reviews first came out, all of the big-time people, you know, the review pundits and big-time YouTubers and whatnot, a lot of those guys got the first 4 episodes. Now, usually, with the Disney Plus shows, you get the first maximum 2. You either get the first episode or the first 2 episodes. This one was 4. Usually you get 4, which is roughly about almost half. Because usually most of the Disney Plus shows are 6 episodes, so they give you the first 2 episodes. But they gave 4 for this one, which was a very suspicious, was a very odd thing, and a bunch of people talked about it when it had happened, when it was revealed that. So you kind of knew that it was going to be like multiple weeks of a lot of the big time reviewers and whatnot not being able to talk really too much about the show, because so many of the reviewers and so many of the big movie / TV show review people, like sites and whatnot, have already seen the first 4 episodes. So now we're all caught up. Us, the public, are caught up with all the pundits and reviewers and people who do this for a living, who watch these shows and get paid to do it for a living. We are all caught up. This is the episode. And another thing that was mentioned a lot, and I didn't want to talk about it, I don't think it was a spoiler. I don't look at spoilers, but I do look at a lot of reviews and a lot of opinions on things. And one of the things that was brought up a lot by people who had already seen the first 4 episodes is that there's a twist at the end of the 4th episode that completely changes the game for the rest of the show. And most of the people said either that 4th episode was their favorite episode or that first episode was their favorite episode. I gotta say, this 4th episode, I think it's my new favorite. Now, I was real tied up with the second episode. I thought the second episode was great. I thought the last week's episode was really good too. I thought it was really solid, but I thought last week's episode, if in comparison to the others, might have been the weaker, which I still gave it a 9 because I still had a great time with it. It was just a different thing. This episode plays up the mummy angle a little. Like, this episode plays up this, like, there's so many tones. And there's already a lot of tones in the Moon Knight series so far. But this episode is almost like all of the tones in Moon Knight, all of the tones this show is setting up, all the tones just like given life, like, in a way. Like, all of those tones are given life in this episode particular. There's comedy, there's action, there's horror, there's a trippiness to it, there's wonder, there's romance, there's adventure. All of that in this episode. And I just remember just thinking to myself, like, this is just amazing how much is going on, and it works. Like, this is a show where Oscar Isaac is given the performance of a lifetime because he has managed to do something, and I've said this before in another video, so this isn't new. He has managed to do something that I've never seen before. I've never seen someone play 2 lead actors at the same time in the same body. I've never seen someone be such a great actor that you know which version of Steven or Mark. You know if you're talking to Steven or Mark. You know if Steven or Mark is in the scene. And it's like, it's insane how he does it. It's demeanor, it's how he carries himself, even how his hair looks. It's crazy. Like, even how his hair looks, the way he carries himself, not only just the accent and the voice and the cadence, it all changes depending on if he's Mark or Steven. And it changes to such a degree that, like, it's nuts. It's nuts to me. Like I have to give this man his flowers. Now, I know they don't like nominated Marvel stuff, MCU stuff, and no one's ever going to win anything. No one's ever going to win a major award working for the MCU because they're never going to get the credit they properly deserve. It's a travesty to me that fucking that Michael B. Jordan didn't get nominated for best supporting actor in Black Panther. Like there are certain things. It's a travesty that Doctor Strange, the original Doctor Strange, did not win Best Picture for for special effects, because the special effects in that movie were insane. But I digress. This performance Oscar Isaac is giving, I dare say, is the single best performance in the MCU itself. I mean, the actual acting required to legitimately play two characters in the same body and to do it so well that you as the viewer understands who is in control and who isn't in control. To the point where I believe, because in a certain point in the story, Layla, I think is it Layla or Lila? Either way, Layla falls in love with Steven. It's starting to fall for Steven. And the vibe you get from Layla and Steven's interactions are completely different from Mark and Layla's interactions. Like the power dynamic just shifts, and it's so crazy to me because it's the same guy. Like I can gush on and on and on and on and on about fucking Oscar Isaac's performance. I just wanted to give Oscar Isaac his flowers right up top because he is just killing it. But getting into the story, it picks up immediately after the events of last week. Like, Khonshu is locked up. So, there is no actual Moon Knight in this week's episode. And I know it's kind of been a complaint from a lot of people, like, there's not enough Moon Knight in this Moon Knight show. But Marvel Studios has kind of, like, made its bread and butter on the fact that it's less about the actual superheroes and more about the actual man, the character, and the superhero second. It's why, you know, Captain America and the Winter Soldier, if you actually think about it, he spent the majority of that movie without being in a Captain America suit. You know, he's in the Captain America suit in the first scene, and then it's like a good hour and some change. And then he's in the first scene, and the escape, but then after that, it's like a good 40 minutes, 45 minutes of the movie, maybe even an hour, you could say, where he's not in the Captain America suit. He's just Steve Rogers. And, like, that's kind of been a calling card of the MCU. Iron Man 3, the Iron Man suit is in the movie. It's prevalent in the movie, but there's a good, like, half of that movie where, until the finale, you don't see, there is no Iron Man suit in use. So, like, there's a lot of stuff like that. Like, the MCU tends to lean that direction, and they tend to focus more on the actual characters, because if you care about the characters, then the Moon Knight character means more, which I appreciate, and, like, it's one of the things that makes the MCU so great, because they know what's important, and it's character. And particularly Steven, and getting the dynamic between Steven and Mark, which is still hilarious, which is still fun, and Mark is definitely falling in love with Layla, and it's very funny seeing the tit for tat with Steven just being like, no, are you falling in love with my wife? Which is something that someone brought up before. Many people have brought this up, but like, since he has a split personality and he has two people, if he dates Layla, is it like she's dating two people? If you date someone with multiple personalities, or I always forget the name of it. I can't say pronounce the proper term for it, but I'm just gonna say, you know, multiple personalities. If you date someone with multiple personalities, does it mean that you're in, like, was it a polyamorous relationship or whatever? Like, you're literally in a relationship with multiple people by dating this one person? Because, like, wouldn't that be it? And it's an interesting topic, and it's an interesting thought, you know, just to think about. But I digress. This episode leans way more into the Mummy vibe. And I love 1999's Mummy. Matter of fact, I'm shocked I haven't made an action classic about that, because I love Brendan Fraser in that movie. I love Rachel Weisz in that movie. That movie, to me, old school 1999 Mummy, is one of my all-time favorite movies, action movies. It's a classic to me. I love it. I watched it again not that long ago, and I loved it more. Ah, man, I think about that movie, and it just brings me home. You know, it just brings me home. And this episode plays up that to the max. First of all, you get to see more badass Layla, her being smart, her being fierce, her like there's a certain point where she's fighting a creature that I won't name, and I'm thinking Mark or someone's gonna save her, and no, she wins, and it's just like, yeah, dude, she's a badass. But, you know, Great action, great story. More into loving the Tomb Raider vibe, loving it all. Like it's really playing up to that Uncharted Tomb Raider. There's a monster that's in the tomb that's stalking them, and that's very horror based. But let's talk about that last part. I'm gonna just spend the rest talking about this last part. So, the twist at the end was not a shocker to me. Wasn't a shocker to me because I had what's the word I'm looking for? Wasn't a shocker to me because I had prior knowledge. First of all, I had already heard that this was going to be based off of a certain run, that part of this story was going to be based off of a certain run of Moon Knight. So, and once I realized what run they were talking about, I kind of saw this also coming ahead of time as well. Not to mention, Kevin Feige himself once kind of mentioned briefly back when Moon Knight was initially announced, like maybe he's crazy and maybe he's just crazy. And on top of that, I did see a spot. There was a small little spot where clearly Steven was in an insane asylum in it, and it hasn't been something that was shown yet. So I was like, they're gonna do that fucking insane asylum bit from that one Moon Knight comic, and that's exactly what they do. And they do it in reverse, actually, as in the comic, it just opens up. I can't remember. I think it's like I can't remember that Moon Knight comic, but it wasn't that long ago. It came out like 2018, 17. It really wasn't that long ago. Maybe not that soon, but it really wasn't like it. It's less than 10 years ago. I can tell you that for a fact. This I can't remember the name of it. It's just called Moon Knight. And in the comic, it picks up with you know, Mark Spector in an insane asylum. He doesn't know, and he's being told that all that stuff that happened in his life as Moon Knight is fake, and all this and that and this, and it turns out to be a whole bunch of other shit going on. But like, you know, that's how it starts. And like, for long and skinny of it, Mark gets shot, gunned down by Harrow, and we think that he's dead, but then all of a sudden he just floats up, or we think he floats up, and he's in this place, and it's a white padded cell. It reminds me a lot, white, just super white. Everything is super freaking white in this insane asylum. It reminds me a lot of Legion, in terms of the whole mindfuckness of it, and it's a mindfuck. This is one of those twists that if you're a comic book fan, you see this, like, if you're a comic book fan, you get what's happening. If you're a comic book fan, you get what's happening. If you're not a comic book fan, I don't know. You might be a bit confused. You might be a bit confused. And I feel bad for you. If you're a comic book fan, you're going to be confused. But essentially what happened is, at least what I think is happening, maybe I'll just, you know what, maybe I'll save this for a separate video, my theories on what's going on with Steven. But yeah, this twist came, it didn't come out of nowhere for me because I'm a comic fan, because I had already heard that they were taken from this run, and the biggest thing about that run, other than the idea that Steven might be crazy, and he might not even have a split personality at all, it might just be, he's crazy, the biggest thing came from that run is the insane asylum angle. So it's like, I feel like they're gonna do that, and sure enough, they did that. And you know, it ends, and like you get this heart to heart with like Steven. They get the double having two Oscar Isaacs acting off of each other. They do the whole thing with two of them, and they hugging each other and stuff. Like, it was really cool. And then it ends with this hippopotamus deity, which I believe is an actual Egyptian deity who looks like a hippopotamus. I don't know her name, but I believe she is an actual Egyptian deity. Saying hi as Mark and Steven scream at the top of their lungs like little girls. This episode was awesome. I loved it. I had so much fun. Like I said, it made me feel a roller coaster of emotions. The action parts were like, oh, this is cool. The Tomb Raider-ish parts was like, oh, this is cool. This is kind of the mummy-ish part with the tomb and the creatures, and this interesting romance between Layla and Steven, along with the reveal that Steven was there when Layla's father died, so the tension between that as well, and then his death and the twist at the end. There is so much in this episode that I believe, like, this episode kind of, what's the word, encapsulates, there you go, encapsulates what the Moon Knight show is all about, all of these tones working in unison. I give Moon Knight episode 4 a 10 out of 10. It's my favorite episode so far. If they can keep this up, man, this is going to overtake WandaVision, man. This is going to overtake WandaVision. Anyways, thank you guys for joining the Comic Game Movie Show. Please like, subscribe, and I will see you guys on the next one. Comment below, what did you think of Moon Knight episode 4? Let me know in the comment section. Thank you guys again. I'll see you on the next one.